Shitballs.
Welcome back, I'm Ryan from Bluewood Gaming, and this is a video that I didn't think I would ever make. This is my thoughts on Ghost Recon Wildlands, because this game happened to be on sale, and I've covered pretty much every single Ubisoft game that's coming out in the last couple of years, and so I figured I might as well pick this up and try it out. Now, this won't be an extremely long or in-depth video because this game has been out for a couple of years, I believe. So you should already have a decent idea of what this game is kind of about, but let's just get into my thoughts about it. Now, let's start out with the first thing that you will notice when you start playing this game, and that is the AI is all over the place. Now, I played this mostly on hard difficulty, and I switched it down to regular just to see if this was still the case, but some enemies are able to hit you like they're trained marksmen, which is perfectly fine. The problem is that other enemies are so terrible that they couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, and, well, you can't really tell which ones are which, because they don't distinguish between just one type of enemy or another. It's the same type of enemies can have really good shots and really bad shots, and it's just terrible all around when you don't know what kind of enemies you're going up against. And essentially, you would think just play like they are all really good shots, but eventually you'll let your guard down or you won't see somebody and you'll get shot from, like, nowhere. Then, on the flip side, your teammates, which, please don't play with teammates. You're gonna hate them because they are absolutely stupid. The biggest problem that I find with them is that they will just kind of get themselves seen when you're trying to sneak around the place, and you can upgrade your teammates so that they're more deadly, but that doesn't make them harder to see. And so you're really not going to be able to play stealth if you play with the AI teammates. Granted, though, there is full drop-in, drop-out co-op in this game, and I highly recommend that you use that. Like, if you don't have anybody to play this with, the game is so average and the enemies are so terrible that I actually recommend that you don't get the game if you don't have somebody to play with. But if you do, you can actually have a bit of fun playing this game. The next thing that you'll notice is actually something from the promotional material for this game. They emphasize the fact that you could go about these missions any way that you wanted. And while it is true on the surface, it doesn't work exactly the way that they showed it off in all the promo materials. They typically showed off, hey, you could wait until night, and then try to go in for a stealth approach, or you could go in just guns blazing. And while that is typically how it works, they didn't make it so that you have a stealth advantage at night. The enemies seem to be able to see you just as easily at night. And in fact, the way that I've found is most effective is literally to just run into a place, grab the objective, and run out, because the enemies usually won't spot you in time to stop you from getting to whatever objective. Like, there's been multiple instances where I'm supposed to go into a place and steal a vehicle and drive out, and I've been able to just casually walk up to said vehicle and drive away without anybody realizing. That seems to just be another knock against the AI, but yeah, if you get into combat, then you have to deal with what I talked about before, and if you go through stealth, it's so easy for your teammates to screw that up that there's really no reason to even attempt stealth in the beginning. So yeah, that kind of limits your play options due to the AI. The third thing that I'll talk about is actually the one that you'll notice most often, and that is the god-awful vehicle handling. every vehicle in this game feels like it's floating. It feels like it's on just a cushion of air as you're driving around. And it doesn't matter if it's some crappy van that you find in the mountains or if it's some like military UAV, or actually it's LAV, I believe it is. I'm forgetting my acronyms right now, but it doesn't matter how big or how small or how powerful the vehicle is. Everything feels like it just floats around the place. Including airplanes. Airplanes feel just like ridiculous in this, and they just kind of float around the place, and it's not difficult to control everything, but you're not getting the most precise controls out of this. Strangely though, if you use a controller to control the helicopters, they actually aren't half bad, but you're not taking helicopters everywhere. You're mostly going to be in vehicles. And speaking of being in regular old cars and trucks, you have to drive a lot in this game. I mean, like, it's going to be 5, 10, 20 kilometers from one mission to the next. Granted, that is you traveling a pretty big distance. I think that to get from one end of the map to the other is probably something in the range of 40 kilometers. So this is a big map, but because of how bad the vehicles handle, it's not exactly something that you want to be going around all the time. And now let's go on to my last biggest concern of the game, or my biggest gripe with the game, and that is the mission variety. Because you'd think that attacking a drug cartel in Bolivia, you could get some variety in the missions, but Ubisoft seems to have not done that. Granted, there's a high number of missions, but they all kind of play somewhat the same. It's essentially go to a place and either do whatever you want with the enemies there or sneak around them. And then you go to somewhere inside that place and you talk to or you grab a piece of intel. You interact with something inside that group of enemies, and then you leave. That is the big formula for every single one. And that objective is usually either grab intel, free somebody, or interrogate somebody. It's just those three things. And then you just leave however you want. And there are also the missions that you go and grab a vehicle or something and leave. There are a few unique missions, but they are very few and far between when they do show up. Now, not everything in the game is entirely terrible. Weapon customization is great. It's not to the level that we've seen in some previous Ghost Recon games, but it is one of the most extensive weapon customizations that I've seen anytime recently. On top of that, the weapons, there's a huge variety in the weapons themselves, although they did find a way to screw that up. At some point after release, they added in loot boxes that give you unique weapons. Now, you can't customize these unique weapons, but they are kind of cool, and there's no way to get them without buying loot boxes. There's also character customization items that you can get in these boxes and just different things like that. And so it would be nice if there was a way to get the items in the boxes without having to purchase them, but it's not like anybody's going to be playing this game long enough to want to purchase those boxes anyways. Wildlands also has PvP in it, but it's not anything worth buying the game over, so don't, have PvP influence your decision all too greatly to get this game. And now that we've covered pretty much everything, let's move on to my final thoughts. Essentially, if you want to play this game with a friend and you find it on sale, it's worth picking up. You and your friend are going to have some fun playing this. Even if you find it on sale but you have nobody to play it with, it's really something that gets boring after a while, and it's not really worth picking up at this point. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. Those are the two reasons why I'd get it. Pretty much, if it's on sale and you have somebody to play it with, otherwise it's going to be boring, and it's going to be repetitive, and you're not going to even play through all of it. Like, even with a friend of mine, it still got boring towards the end of playing it, and we only finished about 75% of it by the time it started getting boring, and we really kind of wanted to move on to a different game. So, yeah, that's going to be it for this. I hope that this was adequately short and covered all the big main points that I didn't like of Wildlands. That's going to be it for this, and as always, I'm Ryan from Blue Gaming. I'll see you guys in the next one.